What's even better than a mini PC? The silent one. So, seeing the Minisforum GK50, I had to give it a shot. Unfortunately, unlike other Minisforum PCs I've tried, this one fell below expectations. Okay, let's start with the product page. It shows the mini PC with 1 gigabit Ethernet port, and it says it in the specs too. But it actually has dual gigabit ports. And here's physical, tangible proof. Surprisingly, even employees aren't sure. Anyway, this is important because the dual LAN and the fanless design are the standout features of this mini PC, which is marketed at industrial and commercial uses. The other thing that's not correct on the product page either is the mention of a digital microphone at the front. It doesn't exist. Windows does show a microphone for recording, but no matter how much I shouted at the unit, I didn't get a signal for recording. Okay, so the GK50 features an Intel Pentium N5030 CPU, which is 4 cores, 4 threads with UHD graphics 605. There's 8GB of onboard memory, which can't be upgraded, and it's running at the slowest DDR4 speed. Also included is a 128 or 256GB M.2 SATA SSD. If you need more storage, there's space for a 2.5-inch SATA drive. Included in the box is the mini PC, power supply, monitor mount, HDMI cable, and DisplayPort cable. The size of this mini PC is pretty close to the NUC 11 Essential, but seeing a plastic box for a fanless PC is always a worrying sign. Opening it up is pretty annoying. First you need to remove the sticky rubber feet, which are sticky bastards, and then the 4 screws. Then you've got to try and pry open the lid with something thin, as it's held on tight. Very annoying. Once inside, there's the SATA cable for the 2.5-inch SSD, which can be screwed on to the bottom cover. Underneath the M.2 SSD is the onboard Wi-Fi. I/O includes 4 USB 3 ports at the front, with none at the back. There's HDMI 2.0 and DisplayPort, and the dual gigabit LAN ports. On the side is an audio and microphone jack, as well as a micro SD card slot for additional storage. It also has dual band Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. I bought the 128GB model for review, and it came with Windows 11 Pro installed. What surprised me was just how sluggish it was to set it up. The N5030 is a quad-core Pentium CPU, but it's from 2019 and it really shows. Just opening Windows or even running Windows Update has the CPU maxed out. In benchmarks, the GK50 is behind the slowest Jasper Lake Celeron I've tested. Here's Cinebench single core. Multi-core, where it's far behind the merely quieter 3 fanless mini PC. And here's Passmark. A similar large performance gap applies to graphics, with the score in DX11 and DX12 being very low. If you're planning to encode videos with the BK50, don't! You'll be dead before it's finished. All this leads to a laggy Windows experience, but how does it handle media playback? Surprisingly well. A 4K VLC movie didn't play back perfectly, but there was only the odd frame dropped over many seconds of playback. 4K 60fps YouTube was an even bigger surprise. While there were frame drops, they weren't bad enough to ruin the experience. So, credit where credit is due, it's a decent media player. Gaming is the last thing you would buy this mini for, so of course, I'm going to game on it. No, let me rephrase that. I'm going to try to game on it. For the shits and giggles, of course. TMNT Shredder's Revenge may look fine here, but it's supposed to be running at 60fps. So it's only managing around half the frame rate for this very low spec game. Hades is completely unplayable. Makes a challenging game near impossible. Moving on to emulation. Dreamcast is too slow. And GameCube, too slow. Power at idle is nice and low, but I would argue overall, this mini PC uses a lot of power for the low performance offered. The current Celerons have almost identical power draw for much more performance. Temperature wise, the Minisforum GK50 hit 85C at 21C ambient under load, which resulted in thermal throttling. That's disappointing. I don't think the cooling here is up to snuff. Also, the mesh-like casing at the top will result in dust and grime buildup over time. I'm very confused with this unit. The main reason you'd buy it, apart from being a silent PC, is for the dual network ports and the various niche uses you get from that. But that's not how it's advertised. Either way, I think you should look for a mini PC using at least the current Celeron CPUs, which are much faster. Even installing software and updating Windows on this is a chore. Overall, the Minisforum GK50 is a slow, low-powered mini PC with fanless cooling that's lacking. I don't recommend it. Well, that's all for this one. Plenty more mini PC reviews on the way. Subscribe and hit the bell icon to be notified. Cheers!